KICI-LP 105.3 FM is Iowa City's nonprofit local radio station. We rely on listener support, and you can help us continue to air great programming like Democracy Now!, Great Taste, Green Room IC, The Situation Room, and This Way Out by making a one-time donation or setting up a recurring donation at our website, KICIRadio.org. Just click on the donate button and become part of the team. KICI-LP. Low power, high impact.
On this episode of the Green Room IC, Beverly Mead interviews Mikeal Burgin. Mikeal is a writer, producer, director, actor, stuntman, and more. If you want to check out his credits on imdb.com, Mikeal is spelled M-I-K-E-A-L, and Burgin is spelled B-U-R-G-I-N. This interview was recorded using Zoom video conferencing on August 13th, 2022. Music used in the introduction of this Green Room IC episode is from the film The Caregivers and was composed by Jillian Whitaker.
My parents used to let me stay up late and watch old reruns of Kolchak the Night Stalker. The day that I arrived on the set that he needed me, without having any prior knowledge of what I was going to be doing there, I showed up on the set and he pulls me aside and he just casually asks me, "So how do you feel about getting hit by a car?" Somebody had challenged me. They said that, it's hard writing a cohesive story in just 2 pages. And I was like, well, I don't think it would be that difficult. And so they challenged me to do it, and I did it. And then we shot that, and I directed it.
Welcome back to the Green Room IC. My guest today is Mikeal Burgin. Welcome, Mikeal. It's great to have you here.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, believe me. Our listeners always like to know who's behind the mic. So won't you please tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from originally, how long you've been involved with writing, film work, whether you've studied these topics in college, that type of thing?
Sure. Actually, I was born and raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and now currently reside in Mount Vernon, Iowa.
Okay.
I've always been a lover of film and television, specifically the stories that are involved with them, and really just kind of fell into it by accident to start getting involved in making my own. Was actually training in mixed martial arts for a short while, and
okay,
the instructor was a independent filmmaker and asked me if I wanted to be involved in doing some stunt work for a zombie series he was producing, and I was obviously very intrigued at doing that, and so I jumped at the chance to do it. And the day that I arrived on the set that he needed me, without having any prior knowledge of what I was going to be doing there, I showed up on the set and he pulls me aside and he just casually asks me, "So how do you feel about getting hit by a car?" And I said, "Well, am I going to get hurt?" And he's like, No, it'll be fine. You'll be all right." Okay, let's do it. So
That's last words, Mikeal.
yeah. So I got hit by a car twice that day. Didn't end up getting in the cut of the movie, but it was a lot of fun. And I think from my willingness to, just kind of do crazy things, and my ability to know how my body works and how to fall and fall safely. And, the word just kind of spread that I was the guy to go to for fight choreography and stunt work. And I had always been acting and writing and doing things all my life. So it just kind of snowballed from there.
Okay, very good. Well, how long have you actually been writing?
All my life.
Okay, all right.
I've,
So that's
I've
about 15 years, because you're what, 17 now?
yeah, you're far too kind.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was always kind of a writer when I was in grade school, and then in high school it really kind of blossomed because I was doing the school newspaper and mass media and different things of that nature, and
Good.
won some state writing awards in high school. And it's always been something I love to do.
Okay, great. Well, what genre do you generally write in, or do you cover more than one?
Well, I think, whatever story kind of is brewing in my head at the time is what genre I'm working in. But I grew up at a very very young age appreciating the horror genre quite a bit. My parents used to let me stay up late and watch old reruns of Kolchak the Night Stalker, and
Oh, I love that film, that series.
I do too.
I have it on DVD.
Yeah, I've got the whole series on Blu-ray
Yep.
myself. And I was able to watch Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho at a young age, and that scene at the end of the movie where Norman Bates runs down the stairs in his mother's uh, 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 dress and wig is it just absolutely ingrained in my brain that I'll never forget that vision has tortured me my entire life. So I've always loved horror.
All right. So it sounds like in developing your skills, you started at a young age working on stories of your own and the school newspaper. Have you written anything besides just stories for newspaper?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've written a lot of screenplays. I've written short stories. I've started writing what I would probably consider novels, but those don't seem to ever play out the way that I want them to. So I kind of give up on those. But really kind of developed my my skill at screenplay writing because of my involvement in movies. And I wrote a short one, like a 2-pager, because somebody had challenged me. They said that it's hard writing a cohesive story in just 2 pages. And I was like, well, I don't think it would be that difficult. And so they challenged me to do it, and I did it. And then we shot that, and I directed it. And storytelling just always came very naturally to me, and that's what I really enjoy most of all in the whole process of filmmaking.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not just on the page, you're also on stage and backstage and being mixed martial arts. Is that what you said? Mixed martial arts?
That's I had done some training in mixed martial arts for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Never really competed, but it was fantastic workout, and always knowing how to defend yourself is never a bad thing. But
no, it's not. Yeah, exactly.
It definitely opened up some doors for me in the realm of filmmaking. Yeah, so I've
Terrific.
done stunt work, acted, written, directed. I've worked with Academy Award winning actors. I've worked with actors who had absolutely no experience. So I've I've kind of run the gamut of top to bottom.
Well, who are some of these Academy Award winners you've worked with? That would be intriguing to me.
I was actually a featured extra in a movie called The Experiment that filmed in Des Moines. I was on set frequently and in scenes frequently with Adrian Brody and Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, wow. Wonderful actors. Just
Yeah.
wonderful actors. So, I know you've written a couple of screenplays here that have just recently been published.
Yeah.
What are the names of these publications?
The first one that I wrote was called Lockridge. It's actually based on actual events that took place in Iowa in a very small town east of Fairfield called Lockridge.
Okay.
Back in the 1970s, there were some mysterious creature sightings around the small town,
Interesting.
and a small bipedal. They kind of described it as a cross between a monkey and a bear. So
Wow.
to me, that screams, maybe a juvenile Bigfoot of some degree.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the Bigfoot subgenre in horror. I think it's very schlocky, and it never comes off as being genuine. So I changed the creature quite a bit in the story. It's more of a territorial quadruped. It definitely is a much bigger and more strong beast than a Sasquatch would be.
Okay. All right. And the other one?
The other screenplay is called The Caregivers, and I had the types of horror movies that I truly enjoy are the ones that are a lot more serious in nature and relatable to people on an everyday basis. And so I had a family member that was suffering from Alzheimer's, and I kind of took that motivation from that life experience and thought it would be interesting to create a haunted house story about somebody who's doesn't really understand that they're haunted.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
I've got I've won quite a few awards on both story and both screenplays, and there's been a lot of interest in producing The Caregivers into a feature film, but so far it's just kind of eluded me. So
Okay. Well, you said they've received several awards. Can you talk about the awards you've won, for not just for these, but for anything else you may have written?
Oh, sure. There was so many. I submitted The Caregivers to a screenplay competition at a film festival just to test the waters and see how it did, and lo and behold, it won first place. So
Wow.
I thought, well, maybe there's a little bit more to this, and maybe somebody appreciates the story just as much as I do. And so I submitted it to a couple others, and it won a few. It came in, semi-finalist in a few, finalist in a few, and so from there I really kind of dove in and started submitting it to a lot, and started doing the same thing with Lockridge, and Lockridge was getting the same sort of recognition as well. So the biggest one that I'm most proud of was a film festival out of LA called Shock Fest. It's one of the premier horror film festivals.
I believe I've heard of it. Yeah.
And Lockridge pulled in first place, got best screenplay 2 years ago.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of that one. So
All right. So do you know whether either or both of these productions might be put on stage or filmed yet?
well, I think of either one of them, the caregivers is probably the one that's going to be easiest to film.
Okay.
Lockridge, it would require a significant amount of probably computer animation and practical creature effects, and I just have a feeling it would be very, very expensive. So in my mind, I've always thought of it as, you know, trying to get the caregivers made first and gain some momentum with my stories, or
Sure,
even if
sure.
I were to direct it, which I'm not necessarily interested in doing, but I figured that the caregivers would be the catalyst that got Lockridge made. So
Very good, very good. So since I have rather a possessive link to it, I'd like to talk about a series of short films that you made a few years ago called Low Self-Esteem. Can you give our listeners some idea of what that's about and how you went about doing that one?
yeah, Low Self-Esteem was it's the only series of films that I've made sequels from. And it came about because I was actually at one point we were casting for the movie The Caregivers, and I had gotten a lot of really good audition videos, and there was one gal in particular that I wanted to work with, right? I just absolutely loved her audition video, but unfortunately she didn't get cast. And so I decided to write just a micro short. I think it was a 3-page little screenplay script, and sent it to her and asked her if she was interested, and of course she was. So we got her down here to Mount Vernon and shot it, and it's kind of my homage to Hitchcock's Psycho. And the main character Ellie is a very socially void person who has very low self-esteem, but is out there in the world looking for love. And unfortunately, with her naivety, she gets taken advantage of quite a few times by the males that she chooses to try to start relationships with. And that usually ends in very grim circumstances for the males. So,
Okay. Do you have a website or Facebook page where people can go to learn more about your writings and films?
I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. The Caregivers has its own Facebook page, as does Lockridge, and the Low Self-Esteem series has its own Facebook page as well. I did have a website at one point, but it was too much for me to continue to manage. And
I can understand that. Yeah.
So,
do you have any productions coming up that might require actors and or crew members?
I don't actually. I've kind of started to wean myself off of directing and producing. Writing is really kind of my thing, and I've got a lot of people have told me that I'm a very good director, but it's rare that any of the movies that
I
I've
felt
produced,
good about it.
directed,
Yeah.
it's rare that any of them I really liked after it was all said and done. They seem to do well and people seem to like them, but I just am not very satisfied with them. So I'm much better at creating the story and the tension and cultivating the character development and fleshing things out, and I'll let somebody else film them from here on out, I think.
Okay, very good. Now, if someone would like to see any of your films or read any of your publications, how would they go about finding them?
My screenplays just recently were published, and they are now available to either buy in paperback, or you can get them on Kindle
Okay.
through Amazon.
Okay.
And then I do have a YouTube page that most of my short films are on. You can go and watch 2 of the 3 low self-esteem films there. The third one is just now making its small festival run, but it will be available on YouTube later this year. So
Okay, very good. Well, it's time to close the curtain on this episode. Thank you again for being here today, Mikeal. I've really enjoyed my time with you and getting to talk to you again because it's been a while. But I hope we can do another interview soon on anything that you write.
I would love to.
All right. Well,
Thank
great.
you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
All right.
The Green Room IC is an original production of KICI Radio in Iowa City. The host for this episode is Beverly Mead, with production by Craig Jarvie. Visit KICI's SoundCloud page to hear this and other Green Room IC interviews. You can send comments and suggestions to greenroomic@kiciradio.org.